We have been following two high-profile, racially charged trials happening this week. The murder case of Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia and the murder charges Kyle Rittenhouse faces in Wisconsin. Joining us this noon to examine what we have seen so far in these two trials is Frederick Lawrence, distinguished lecturer at Georgetown Law Center. First, I want to say it's great seeing you here again on the noon show, Frederick. And let's begin with Rittenhouse's trial in Wisconsin. Closing arguments start on Monday. The prosecution is going to seek lesser charges for the jury to consider. For the layman, myself, it seems like maybe the prosecution is not very confident in their case. What would you say about the case that they have presented and where things fall for them?
I think the prosecution is right not to be confident. This case has become deceptively complicated. The defense has been able to put the issue of self-defense very much front and center. Wisconsin's got kind of a quirky law about self-defense. Once self-defense is in the case, the burden falls on the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was not self-defense. So proving the absence of something is very complicated. So that's one problem. Your second problem is that self-defense is not just about what somebody should have known, it's what they actually thought, what they actually believed. So the defense has done a pretty good job of creating doubt that Kyle Rittenhouse did fear for his life, and that's why he responded with the deadly force that he used. So I think the prosecution is unfortunately got a steep climb coming, and on Monday they're going to try to fix that through their summations. Interesting.
Is there a precedent that would be set here should Kyle Rittenhouse be acquitted? This is not someone who was from Kenosha. He came across state lines to be there. He's 17 years old, and he had a weapon that he was not supposed to have. And it seems as though maybe he was kind of acting to quell protest as some sort of authority figure. Would his acquittal set a precedent, or does it just say, you know what, people have a right to carry weapons and defend themselves?
Well, let me say two things. First of all, what you just laid out, Adrianna, is what the prosecution should have done. They should have made the case that this is somebody who came there with a weapon. He had no business being there. He was looking for trouble. He got himself mixed up in trouble, and he invited that trouble. That's a good, powerful case that they have some of the points of, but they got to connect those dots. That's what they're going to try to do on Monday. In terms of a precedent, it may be a precedent in the court of public opinion, but in the actual judicial system, these cases are highly fact-specific and fact-intensive. So I wouldn't think this is going to set a major precedent that way. But for the public that's watching this case very closely, it is going to suggest that the use of deadly force is acceptable if somebody goes ahead and gets himself mixed up in trouble. I think that is potentially very, very dangerous indeed.
Now, we do know that the murder trial for the three men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia is ongoing. I want to ask you quickly, your concern about the makeup of the jury. 11 out of the 12 jurors are all white, and we know that the prosecution has a lot of video evidence that they're relying on. Are you concerned about the juror makeup here?
You can't not notice that. I'm still hopeful that the prosecution's got a strong case here, that it's true that the defense has tried to muddy that by saying that there was concern that Arbery was involved in misbehavior. By the way, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. But again, it's what the actors thought. Did they think that he was doing that? Georgia used to have this citizen's arrest law. They've largely dialed it back, which is a good thing. But at the time, if you had probable cause that someone was fleeing from a crime, you could go ahead and make a citizen's arrest. You know, Adrianna, this case shows exactly why these citizen's arrest laws are so terribly dangerous. You have untrained people, unprofessional people using what they think is their judgment, and then a tragedy results.
And we do know that some of those citizens' laws have been linked back to slavery and attacking fugitive slaves. So problematic all the way around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was designed to put people in a position to use deadly force that the non-police officers should never be using.
Frederick Lawrence, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for breaking everything down. We'll be in touch with you next week as these trials wrap up. Take care.